Hi, everybody. I've got some questions about the supports tag in cascading style sheets. And usually, when I get a question about either CSS or um, JavaScript, I end up going to Mozilla for some reason, especially because of its relation to JavaScript, which it currently supports all the guide documents. So they are like the people who actually own JavaScript, even though it's open source. So I often find that their examples are really good. So about the supports thing, as with anything else, I encourage you to use a website called caniuse.com. And in this case, it's important to know that this supports tag is not supported at all by IE. Everywhere else, it's fine. And that's an important thing. So if you look here, it says basically that these are feature queries that allow authors to condition rules based on whether a specific property declaration is supported in CSS. Now, if you take jQuery, you'll see we create hooks for CSS. If you've gone through that course, you may remember it. However, it depends on what time you took it, or it's not always taught, but there is a CSS hook in jQuery where you can create cross-browser support. Of course, you still have to deal with the fact that JavaScript needs to be turned on. So this is an interesting thing. So big thing to remember is use can I use to figure out support for anything. Okay? But it lets you specify declarations that depend on support. It's called a feature query. So basically, you put the rule at the top part of your code, or nested in another condition. But specifically, if this supports display grid, then do it. Otherwise, it's like a conditional. Basically, it's saying, if this browser supports the display property grid, then do this. That will override any other display for that div. So think of it as using a conditional. Now, as we go through this course, you'll see that we can actually, when we make compiled style sheets, we can write conditions inside our code. But the supports is very similar to some of the other tags that you may have already known, like the if LTIE, if less than IE9. There's a lot of things like that, but this is what is occurring in that when in the text where the author's speaking about it. Now, if I go back to the search here, and we look for, can I use display : grid? And we run this. So basically the grid concept and this display property doesn't always have, like right now we're doing display flow root. And flow root is very unique. But when we scroll down a little bit, display contents, display table, and we can actually look for the grid in the scroll. So display contents, that's as good as we can get in this section. So when we look for display : grid, we've got to see if it supports it, and I want to see what the support is on this. So include support. It looks like it's pretty, except for Opera. This means it's some known issues, partial support with that prefix. But that is what this support tag does. So we'll need this with specifically the grid, but also the flexbox. So the flexbox is a very important part of this course. Like when we do flexbox layout, we have only partial support on flex. And flex is very much a part of modern day CSS. So two things to learn here is I want you to think about supports as a condition. Like here, if supports not display grid float right, this is the alternate to that condition. But it will overwrite if it does support. So I kind of like this for opposites, keeping them both in there. Just keep it at the top level of your code. And there's more information here about some other things with the not and the and operator. So if we're looking for both, then do something. So you can actually write conditions with your support tag, which is a fantastic thing. So I'll close on that, but remember, can I use, and remember the supports syntax. So let's say you have snippets.me or some other code snippet library. You could keep this as an example, but I would keep an example of supports, supports not, supports and supports or. And then you'd have good condition. You can reduce the amount of your code and also reduce the complexity of it. So any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.